Parties and politics behave like dinosaurs. They only move if they have to. How strong this lobbying can influence really depends on the party and the connections. For example, at the time when we were in the AfD, there was hardly any lobby group that wanted to have contact with anyone in the AfD. Yeah. There was actually one article that said Bitcoin maximalism in the German Bundestag. Mm-hmm. We wanted to set the ground rules that anybody who wants to come can come without being identified by or being on camera. There are a lot of people that don't understand it. They don't want to change anything. They don't see the necessity. The future is going to be interesting because one way or another they have to learn about it. I can't go into much details, but I am aware that the major parties in Germany, the heads of some major parties in Germany, are actively seeking direct advice on what is happening in the United States right now. Things can go quickly.
Oh, you think so?
Yes, yes, yes. So if there is a real urgent need to come together in the Bundestag and discuss a topic because it's of existential matter, then that's possible.
So today we're talking to Stephan Schmidt. He's an insider when it comes to promoting Bitcoin in the German parliament. He's the scientific assistant of Joana Cotar. She's an independent MP in the German parliament, and she became famous in the Bitcoin community with her viral speech when she openly addressed the advantages of Bitcoin in the German Bundestag. So you did a lot of work behind the scenes. Joana did a lot of publicity work, and you initiated the Bitcoin Bundestag initiative. Could you maybe give us an overview of what the stance is today in German politics? I know the AfD came out positively about Bitcoin, then the FDP, but what about the other parties? Mm-hmm. What's the latest stance here?
Yeah, I would say the current situation, we are just before an election, is that the major parties, the former coalition between CDU, SPD and the Green Party, they are not in favor of Bitcoin. At least none of them has expressively said that they are. And if we look at what the Christian Democratic Union has introduced, or not introduced, but has, they have introduced a bill that is literally against Bitcoin by, for example, forbidding transactions against cash, for instance, and also a lot of control over Bitcoin transactions, etc. Yeah. The AfD and the FDP, the liberals, they have become more open, but I would say that is a populist move of both parties to be more outspoken, neutral to positive towards it. But as we have seen lately at the event of the FDP, the liberals, whether they really mean it sincere with Bitcoin, I would put a big question mark behind it. Yeah, and the AfD has done nothing basically to promote Bitcoin specifically or crypto. From my understanding, it's also just fishing for votes at this point.
Yeah, interesting. So their stance could be very short-lived. So did the Greens or the CDU bring forward like strong arguments or any logical argumentation on why they're not pro-Bitcoin?
From my understanding, the CDU really has not spent any time and effort into studying it or understanding Bitcoin or crypto. I think they are also very driven by I wouldn't say direct lobbying, but there is for sure connections that influence the bill, for example, that they came up with, that because there would be no reason to have such an aggressive stance against Bitcoin when it's a topic that's not relevant for them at this point in time so much. So yeah, those are the things that I see at the moment.
So how are political ideas shaped in Germany? I have the feeling there's a lot of party narratives. If you're a member of a party, you better not question them. So there's not a lot of open discourse, and it's influenced a lot by lobbyists, right? Is that correct?
Yes and no. So parties and politics behave like dinosaurs in a way. They only move if they have to. And in the case of, so the policy changes, even if there is someone, as we can see, for example, with Frank Schäffler, in a party that is advocating or putting this topic, in this case Bitcoin, on the agenda, even for a decade now, it's not guaranteeing any positive policies or any positive positioning if there is not an urge for either the party, the fraction here in the Bundestag. It is, you can see it as there are people who champion a topic and they want to make it an agenda. It can even be groups within the party or within the fraction that come together and they say we want to advocate for this or that policy. But it is by no means safe that that would eventually lead to a bill positive for Bitcoin, even after so many years. So for example, until today, even though Frank Schäffler has understood Bitcoin, I would say, the Liberal Party has not made any really liberal policy stance for individuals until today. So that's a good example, I believe. That is the same in every party. And some of them have different focuses. The Green Party, for instance, is very environmentally concerned to the outside viewer. But yeah, I think that's just whether it's relevant for them, for their voters or not. And then lobby groups are, some lobby groups may have good connections into the parliament, but it's not necessarily a guarantee that all of them are influenced, all parties are influenced in the same way. I can give you another example. For example,
is it only about networking? But also
it is about networking and how it is aligned with the general direction of the party. So, and how strong this lobbying can influence really depends on the party and the connections. For example, at the time when we were in the AfD, there was hardly any lobby group that wanted to have contact with anyone in the AfD, because with the association of guilt, or that really made them stay away from the party. I don't know if that's changing, but that is different with every party.
I have the feeling that in many cases the lobbying is stronger than the interest of the voters. So where do the voters fit in? Do the voters have to compete with lobby groups here, or how does that work?
So I would say for Bitcoin it's different. Bitcoin doesn't have a lobby group. For the private people, that's for businesses. So I would separate this. Businesses have an interest in having preferential or good policies in place. That makes sense. But Bitcoin itself is very difficult. And I think we can see this because there was a a association before the newly formed association, Bitcoin Association, and as far as I understood it, it lost track, or it fell asleep in a way, and not much happened there lately. And it's difficult because Bitcoin is not, it's not an entity, it's not, it's a distributed network, and everybody sees it in a different way. And so it's very difficult to advocate for policies regarding Bitcoin in one central organization. Again, when it comes to businesses, I think there is space for it, because it doesn't matter how the, for example, AML regulations or MiCA regulations are interpreted, or yeah, that makes sense to have some educational influence, for example, on the politicians, to let them know, hey, this is how Bitcoin works. But that's different.
Joana Cotar, or you both started the initiative Bitcoin im Bundestag?
Yeah, I think we would both say we initiated it. Without her, it would not have been possible. So, yeah.
And did you orange pill her, or did she do that herself?
No, she already knew Bitcoin many years ago when her brother introduced it to her in, I think, 2014 or something. And she didn't buy back then. Her brother did. And so time passed by, and she has always been, she learned a little bit about it. And then when we formed the office in 2018 here in the Bundestag, she had 2 employees basically that were into Bitcoin or in crypto back in the days. And so it was a topic every now and then. And yeah, so it's for the initiative, it was that quite frank and open about it, that I do that only for Bitcoin, but she had no problem with that, and she saw the value in free money, and therefore it made sense, and we could focus on Bitcoin, and that's how we went. Yeah. That's how we started. So
she's an independent MP. A lot of people say Frank Schäffler from the FDP is also an OG who really brought it into the Bundestag first here.
So, to my best knowledge, it is indeed that Frank Schäffler was the first MP in touch with Bitcoin in 2012 or 13, when he started to ask the government, or the FDP, the Liberal Party, started to ask questions about the taxation of Bitcoin. And in 2014, the Social Democrat Party had a roundtable, some sort of roundtable with experts, even with OGs from Berlin, that spoke to the members there and the employees of the Social Democratic Party. And that was led by Jens Zimmermann and Lars Klingbeil. Yeah, ever since from then, we haven't heard anything from the Social Democratic Party, at least to my knowledge. But those were initiatives that were taken, or the relevant situations in the parliament here before us.
So it probably didn't fit in the party narrative at that time. Right. I remember seeing her speech in the parliament talking about Bitcoin with the Bitcoin logo on her shirt, and that completely went viral and was picked up internationally by the media. Not so sure if it was picked up in Germany or what effect it had actually to the MPs here. Did it have an
I think a lot of even German MPs saw this clip. At that moment, I was in El Salvador at adopting Bitcoin. And it was sent to me via, or I think Swan, the company Swan or someone shared it, and I was like, wow, that's my boss. It's Joana. So yeah, that went very viral and drew a lot of attention, I would say.
Yeah, it was a great speech because it was so honest and bold, and that's something you don't hear a lot in politics, maybe especially in German politics. So you saw the whole process from the Bitcoin and Bundestag initiative. How did it go? How did it start? How did it end? What was your experience there?
So, of course, I was interested in Bitcoin for many years, and when I was here in Berlin, I reached out to the community. Or I went to events. I also went to El Salvador. I connected with people within the community. And I would say that went very well. It was not, in the beginning, it was not my intention to necessarily use this, because at that time we were not able to do it because we were still in the party. But then it opened up, and or Joanna left the party. So I was getting connected to a lot of people in the space, and had good connections, I would say, that enabled us later on to actually get to connect to the speakers, to speak at conferences, so that Joanna could send a message there and talk. So that's how it started, and it all grew organically, I would say, naturally. Mm-hmm. We just started with what we wanted to do. It started basically with in July 2023 with the publication of a draft bill that we proposed. It's an open source draft bill for Bitcoin. Many people agreed. Some were not in favor of this bill proposal.
Did many agree, like publicly, or who?
Yes. A lot of people said yes. Finally, some positive. There was actually one article that said Bitcoin maximalism in the German Bundestag, which I really liked, and that it makes sense what's in there. So I think in general it was quite a success, but there were also people that didn't like that it came from us. In particular, they saw a danger that Bitcoin could be framed according to, I don't know, liberal, right-wing, conservative, or something. But I guess that's something that anybody that touches Bitcoin in the political sphere is exposed to. But that's okay. I mean, that's something that's normal in politics. But that was that way. And then we continued with the events. It took a moment to organize it. Then we had 12 events in total.
So in my view, that she was an independent MP was this window of opportunity to actually bring forward this topic. Because when she was back in the AfD, she couldn't.
It was not possible.
It was not possible. When she left the AfD, there was this association of guilt many times. So even she left the party.
But there was not a problem for us so much. So this guilt thing, we didn't feel this guilt.
I mean, I've been to a couple of your events as well, and I remember that privacy played a big role. Yeah. So people were interested, but they wanted to be there anonymously, or MPs actually sent their employees to have a look, right? Was the privacy important because of the association with the AfD back then, or because of the topic Bitcoin?
No, the privacy was, we wanted that anybody who wants to come can come without being on camera.
Oh, it was your...
It was us. It was not put upon us. It was us who wanted to make sure that no one has to ask, in the sense that for privacy when it comes there. And it's also...
Do you foresaw certain problems then?
It was clear that not everybody is going to cheer for the initiative because it comes from us. But we wanted to set the ground rules that anybody who wants to come can come without being identified by or being on camera, let's say. Yeah. That's what we wanted to do, but it came from us, and it was not put on us by anyone in that sense. It's a policy that we wanted.
Yeah. I mean, for you it's probably a common thing, but for me it was new to just see how complicated these political games are, and that it's not really an environment for open discourse and for diversity of thought. I mean, we hear a lot about diversity, but
yes,
I'm kind of missing that here.
Okay, I understand your angle, how you look at it. For the decision, why I think we did it was that coming from the Bitcoiner space myself, to most events that I go, people ask not to necessarily film others if they don't want to.
Yeah, true.
And that was probably the strongest reason behind why we did it. But I understand that I also heard that a lot of people complained, like, why do you double the voice in the videos if the guests are speaking or asking questions? That's what we did in order to protect the privacy, so that even someone who doesn't want to be identified doesn't have to be identified. He can still say his name, but that's different.
Yeah. I mean, you made it open for everyone, and you're going to leave the parliament soon, so you left it open for everyone. You invited every party. Now that Trump got elected and announced a strategic reserve, now the other parties come out, like the AfD, now the FDP, and the FDP just recently... the
AfD did not say they want a strategic reserve.
But they
said they want to be neutral, as they used to be. So basically, they don't want to change anything. It's a very interesting stance. The spokesperson for the topic at the AfD said that the Bitcoin community can be glad for what the AfD is proposing for Bitcoin, or can be thankful for that. But basically, what they say is they don't want to change anything. They are not for more privacy, for freedom-oriented, for the individual policies on Bitcoin. They're not asking for a strategic Bitcoin reserve. That's different. So so you have to really look, I mean, not you, but in general, people have to look closely, and what do they really say?
So they just came out to say...
They just came out to say something about Bitcoin because everybody realized, okay, Trump did it, it went well. Maybe we want to do this too. It's very, again, now we come back to the point we talked in the beginning, is that it's very difficult to propose or to come to positions on Bitcoin, for example, that a party constructs, because there are a lot of people that don't understand it, they don't want to change anything, they don't see the necessity. And in order to say at least something, in the case of the AfD, they say
nothing.
We just want to have it for you, so that we don't want to change it, so you don't have to worry about anything. But did they really understand Bitcoin? Do they know what it means? I have doubts about it, but we will see. The future is going to be interesting, because one way or another they have to learn about it. And I think that's the moment when they have to learn Bitcoin more detailed, and that's when they will also be able to formulate more intelligent positions on the matter. That's for sure,
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so, but you were very open. You invited everyone who was interested, and then recently the FDP organized a roundtable, and basically also invited everyone, but Joana Cotar got disinvited. And that for me was strange, but also, kind of probably a political game, or was that like personal conflict?
I have no knowledge of a personal conflict between Mr. Scheffler and Joana. All I know is that we, pretty much the whole office, registered for the event. We got a confirmation that we're seated, including Joana Cotar. Including Joana. And the night before, or the day before the event, Joana and a colleague got expelled or rejected by mail because of seating. So the official, that's what I have been told. What I know is that it's because of the seats are all taken, which really did not make any sense because of the timing and everything of the emails and everything. But nonetheless, they tried to get in, and they were refused. And after some, let's say, negotiations, it was resolved, and the seats were available. And so I don't think it was necessarily the seating problem, obviously, but it was also, there's no particular conflict, I would say, between Frank Schäffler and Joana.
Yeah, so I heard Mark Friedrich, I'll talk to him, so he confirmed that he's a famous influencer in Germany. He was speaking there, and he got her in. And I don't know why he managed, but he did manage, and she actually had one of the best seats. But to me, that says a lot about the political culture and the climate here. It's not, it's not very positive, and it's not very inclusive. Let's say it's such a buzzword currently.
It is.
So, what do you think? Does this reflect their political priorities?
It reflects the political situation in Germany, and
it's like kindergarten.
I have to say, I don't understand why they did it, the liberals, because it is tactically it's not very clever to expel someone like the day before, and I don't understand it, but it does reflect the general situation in German politics, that you have this firewall, they call it, to people that they don't want to talk to or anything. And like, it doesn't make sense to have an open event to anyone and then be particular about one person that actually really promoted Bitcoin, that drove this topic now for more than 1.5 years in the German Bundestag, who brought it, who had regular events. And so I just hope that it doesn't reflect the Bitcoin spirit.
Not at all.
Bitcoin is open to anyone. And so I think that it's something that these protagonists need to understand and learn also. At our events, there were people that we didn't agree with other points of view about something, but it doesn't matter, because Bitcoin is neutral, and that's how also the spirit about the debates around it should be. We have developers that are left-leaning, we have developers that are right-wing leaning, we have liberal developers, we have all sorts of people in the space, and it's not possible to bring Bitcoin on the political stage without crossing this barrier of the so-called firewall. Yeah.
Firewall, yeah.
Firewall, yeah.
I mean, for international viewers, it's probably not so known, but for us in Germany, it's very common that basically everything the AfD says, just because the AfD is pro, all the other parties must be against it.
Yes, yes.
So once the AfD came out, and well, you said it was relatively neutral, but kind of positive, being positive about Bitcoin, I thought, okay, that's it. All the other parties are going to be against it. So, but then the FDP was pro, and yeah, for me, it's just a dishonest, opportunistic approach. If that's my assessment.
Oh, you have to understand their situation. I mean,
well, that's the.
Honestly, I believe nobody who went to this event was there believing that the Liberal Party, the FDP, is doing this event because suddenly they really discovered Bitcoin.
No.
So it's obvious, and I think it's fair to have such an event under such conditions, let's say. But yeah, the details matter sometimes, and it's not if you promote, if you are speaking in favor of borderless, open network. That's like wanting to introduce or supporting the internet in the 90s, but saying we want border controls for the internet in a way. It doesn't really fit together, in my opinion.
The FDP is trying to survive with the next elections. They might be voted out, right?
Yeah, they're trying hard, yeah.
They're trying hard to stay relevant. Well, if Donald Trump establishes a Bitcoin reserve next week or announces it, what's going to change here?
I think we're not prepared for this. The political area or the political arena is not prepared for such an announcement. I have to say, I am aware that, I can't go into much details, but I am aware that the major parties in Germany, the heads of some major parties in Germany, are actively seeking direct advice on what is happening in the United States right now and globally. So they want detailed information about it. And
they don't know? Or?
Because they don't know.
Okay.
They are looking for information, and because they are aware that Trump has said what he said, and that is a very likely scenario or a possible scenario, so they are urgently looking for information from Germans that are concerned with this topic, and possibly even internationals. Yeah. Most politicians have not had the time. Also, we have these new upcoming elections now that takes a lot of time. They need to go somewhere and give speeches and everything. So they cannot really go down the rabbit hole, let's say, and find out about Bitcoin. And when that event happens, whether that's right on the inauguration day or thereafter, or a couple of months later, that does not even make much of a difference, in my opinion. They will struggle to follow up on what is going to happen. And the only thing that they can do is act quickly, but you need information to act. So I'm really curious how this will roll out.
Act quickly in German politics, probably just more wishful thinking.
Things can go quickly.
Oh, you think so?
Yes, yes, yes. So if there is a real urgent need to come together in the Bundestag and discuss a topic because it's of existential matter, then that's possible, yes. But there's no guarantee. Yeah.
What is the most surprising or frustrating aspects of the Bitcoin journey in German politics? What's your experience there?
So one thing that really surprised me was when it comes to Bitcoin, how negligent politics has been over the last decade to Bitcoin. I thought that at least the left party, they have Anke Domscheit-Berg. That's a politician. Yeah. She has been with the people that were around WikiLeaks at the time, who accepted Bitcoin very early because they were cut off of the other payment processors. And so I thought they understand the value of free money and they push for this. But until today, it's actually the opposite from what I have seen. They're advised by people that are openly against Bitcoin, for example. I also don't understand how the Christian Democratic Union, so that really surprised me when earlier last year they came up with a bill proposal that literally forbids you to exchange money for Bitcoin and puts a lot of limitations and restrictions and transaction record stuff that you need to do, that you keep. And all of this, how you can come up with such a bill at a time where global Bitcoin adoption is taking place. So that really surprised me when it comes to Bitcoin, those are the biggest things I would say. Yeah. And that nobody learned more about Bitcoin in the last year, 2 years, 3 years is because there are major other topics going on, like Ukraine now, the change in the US, China, and other topics that are really keeping them busy. But this is something they will have to learn about. We will see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's going to be election next month.
Yes, February.
It's not really clear where we're heading. And Joana Cotar, as an independent MP, she cannot be re-elected. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. She cannot be re-elected. Yes.
So you're all going to leave politics,
yes,
right?
Yes, we are. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you happy about that? And what are your plans for the future?
I'm very okay with it. First of all, I never wanted to come into politics, but then I did. I thought I'd do 1 term as an employee. I did 2 terms now, almost. So it's okay. On the other hand, politics has become part of my life. So it's not easy to lay it off in a way. I see myself still reading a lot about what's going on and how things are moving. But yeah, I will see. I will take some time off to reflect, I think, and then decide what to do.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your insights and giving us a glimpse behind the scenes of the dynamics in German politics and how you try to put Bitcoin on the agenda. We don't know how it's going to develop here in Germany, but in general, with regards to Bitcoin, I think it's quite bullish and positive. So I look forward, and I wish you all the best with your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks.
Thanks.